I'm going to call the meeting to order. Let's see, the first order of business is, I believe we had November meeting minutes that were circulated and comments were made and recirculated. And so, are there any comments to final minutes for November?
No.
No. Can I have a motion then to approve the minutes? A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, minutes are approved.
Can I interrupt for a minute?
Yes.
Before we forget? January's meeting is going to be on January 8th.
Right. Thank you, yes, it'll be the second Wednesday of the month.
January 1st is New Year's Day, which is a
It's
Wednesday.
the first Wednesday of the month.
And the deadline is on the 26th, because that Wednesday is Christmas Day.
So the deadline will be the 26th, the
The
day.
day after Christmas, okay.
So if anybody is coming back, and I hope,
Or earlier.
I know you wish you weren't coming back, but if you are,
Saturday.
those are the deadlines.
Sarah, is everybody up to date on their taxes?
Yes.
Okay. Then the order of business for this evening will be as follows. The first item will be 2019-24, 116-118 Main Street. Second will be 2019-22, 9 Beechwood Road. Third will be 2019-07, 47 Beechwood Road. Fourth will be 2019-29, 2 Hancock Place. Fifth will be 2019-28, 47 Ardsley Avenue West. And sixth will be 2019-27, 63 Field Terrace. And seventh and final will be 2019-26, 47 Main Street. So with that, let's begin. First item is 2019-24, Eileen Fisher, 116, 118 Main Street. Is anybody here for that? No? I think were there any comments from any of the board members on the plans? There were changes made. I think the kitchens were.
The kitchens were removed.
Yeah.
That was the only
That
change
was
made.
the only item. I think we were okay with the site plan, since it was a site plan we had approved several
Yeah, well,
years
it's
ago.
actually, yeah, it's just here for the, for special
Special
permit,
permit,
not for site
right.
plan.
It provided parking, is what the concern was.
And they had, yeah, so we had required the parking the first go-around, too.
Right.
With the site plan.
Yeah.
So then,
Just a comment.
yes,
To be clear, the stoves were removed because they might have been considered apartments, and this is not an apartment building.
correct, this is being approved for a special permit as an Airbnb.
No, not
I'm
Airbnb,
sorry,
bed and breakfast.
Bed and breakfast, sorry. Well, then, if there are no other comments, any comments from anyone in the audience on this matter? No? Then, Mary Ann, you have a resolution?
I did,
for
yeah,
it?
this one's a little bit different, so it's a resolution granting a special permit. In November 2019, 116 Main Street Capitol, through its member Eileen Fisher, applied for special permit to operate a bed and breakfast establishment at his property located at 118 Main Street, which is located in the business district, and the bed and breakfast establishment would contain 5 bedrooms for overnight guests and 1 apartment for the owner-operator. The drawings submitted with the original application showed a total of 3 kitchens, 2 of which were not documented, would not be permitted in a bed and breakfast establishment, and whereas the applicant removed the stoves and ovens from 2 of the kitchens, leaving only 1 kitchen in the building, and the owner's unit will be occupied by a full-time resident manager, and there are 6 off-street parking spaces on the property. The applicant has either demonstrated compliance with or agreed to comply with all requirements for a special permit listed in 224-36C of the zoning code, which are the specific requirements for a bed and breakfast. Whereas the planning board has determined that adequate parking is provided on the site, Han Engineering reviewed the plans, and in a memorandum dated November 6th listed 2 issues which were adequately addressed in a subsequent submission. Planning board held a public hearing on the application on November 6th and December 4th. Granting of a special permit for the bed and breakfast is a type 2 action under SECRA and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants a special permit under 224-36C of the zoning code subject to the following conditions. 1, this special permit shall expire 2 years after issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Renewal of the special permit shall be required to continue the use. There's a requirement in the code that the first one can only be for 2 years, subsequently can be for 5 years. The applicant must comply with all requirements of 224-36 of the zoning code, and the applicant must receive approval from the Board of Architectural Review for any sign in connection with the bed and breakfast establishment. And when there's a note on the back, on the bottom, this resolution is not a substitute for a certificate of occupancy. The bed and breakfast use may not commence until the building inspector issues a certificate of occupancy.
Any comments on the resolution? No, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried.
Anybody come in?
Who's that?
I would just like to have it in the record, this is our chair, Pat's last meeting, correct?
Yes.
And I personally would like to thank him for all his service,
Maybe mail one.
as well as everyone else does, so I just hope that's in the record. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let the record show there's a lot of applause.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure serving with all of you and serving the community too. For as I said in my letter to the board, the trustees. I mean, I've been active in the village since the 1980s. I served on 2 comprehensive plan committees. I was vice chair of the ARB for a while, 9 years, and I've been chair of this board for about the last 5 or 6 years. And it's been an honor to serve the village and, to give back to the community that we've lived in since 1975. So, thanks again. Okay, next item is 2019-22 Daniel and Kelly Politzer, 9 Beechwood Road.
Hello. Thank you also, Pat, for your service. This is Brandon Stewart, representing Michael Lewis Architects and the owners at 9 Beechwood Road. I believe there were no comments issued by Han this second time around. We've added topo contours to show the general direction of drainage. We have added notes and assurances that we'll be verifying the soil conditions when the stormwater management system is going in. And we've just cleaned up other clarity issues that were found throughout the application and the drawings. And a few other site protections at the front of the house as well.
Any comments from any of the board members? Any comments from anyone in the public on this matter? No, I think you addressed everything. I think the one issue is, I think the access, the construction access will be from the driveway around the back of the house?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that was the only issue.
Minimal
So,
impact of all of this, yeah.
okay. Mary Ann, do you have a resolution on this item? Dan Beechwood?
Just, when,
Dan?
when you have to sign, cross out Sheila's name and printing your name underneath, okay? I know what you did on the last one.
You did.
Yes.
You put your name, you crossed it, oh, great, okay, I didn't look at it, okay, good, good. Yeah, I have a resolution. In November 2019, Daniel and Kelly Politzer applied for site development plan approval to build a 1-story addition along with a deck, walkway, and stormwater system at their house at 9 Beechwood Road. Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memo dated November 6th listed several issues with the application, all of which were addressed in a subsequent submission. Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and in a memo dated October 31st made 2 comments which were adequately addressed in the subsequent submission. Planning Board held a public hearing on the application on November 6th and December 4th. It's a type 2 action under SECR and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board grants site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Modifications to 9 Beechwood Road. And then the sheets and dates prepared by Michael Lewis Architects. No conditions.
Any comments on the resolution? No? Can I have a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Don't go away.
Takes long, because he's got to write his name.
One goes to Mary Ann.
Great. item is 2019-07, Richard and Genevieve Dorman, 47 Beechwood Road. A revision from a previously approved plan, site plan.
John Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture. This is a modification to a previously approved plan to reduce the scope of the job to meet the project budget. So there was a reduction for part of the addition was reduced to a single story from a two-story addition. There's no change to the site plan. Footprint stays the same. The dimensions and all of the site plan related stuff stays the same.
Okay. Any comments from any of the board members on this? No? Any comments from anyone in the public? Mary Ann, do you have a resolution on this?
On March 6, 2019, Richard and Genevieve Dormant received conditional site development plan approval to construct additions to their house along with a patio at 47 Beechwood Road. Whereas all of the conditions of the resolution of approval were satisfied, and whereas in December 2019, the applicant submitted an application to revise the approved plans by eliminating the second floor additions. Han Engineering reviewed the revised plans, and in a memo dated November 27th stated he had no issues with the submission. The planning board held a public hearing on the application on December 4th. The actions type 2 under secret. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Dormant Residence, listed and dated, prepared by Ferguson Malone Architecture, and the drawings entitled Proposed Additions and Alterations, prepared by Hudson Engineering.
Any comments on the resolution? No, then I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second? All in favor? Aye. You're approved.
And also, Pat, thanks for your service. I know, having been on boards, you have gone above and beyond in terms of your input to the village over
Oh,
these
thank
years.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Worked with my friend Earl for a number of years at KRB.
A lot of heavy lifting.
Back in the old days.
Signing this was just too easy. We should have asked a question.
I'm not off the hook. I have to go to the band concert. It was very long.
Next item is 2019-29, Takashi and Akiko Okamura, 2 Hancock Place.
Good evening. I'm Christina Griffin, Principal Christina Griffin Architect, and I'm here with the landscape architect and our civil engineer, and we're presenting an extension renovation of this house at 2 Hancock Place. Our plan is to take the garage and relocate it to the front of the house, and then convert the garage into a family room and porch. And the main reason we're doing this is because this house has the garage in the backyard and the level area of the property, and we'd like to take this back as an open green space that can be used for outdoor activities for the family. Currently, there's a very long driveway right here, and we want to put that driveway on this side of the house. So the property slopes up and levels out in the back. So we're going to return this to green space and have a small patio. We are also planning to do a 2-story addition, and this 2-story addition is so that we can increase the size of the depth of the house, so we can have access to the patio, and also make use of having space to create a bedroom on the second floor. Right now, you have to go through a bedroom. It's sort of a quasi-bedroom hallway, and it's a very odd situation. We're trying to correct that, and I'll show you that in the floor plans. So you can see that the house has, we're going to be looking for a variance because of the lot coverage. or coverage. We are, it's a non-conforming coverage, and even though we've tried to get close to what it is now, we're going to be a little bit more, just under 200 square feet more than the existing coverage of all the impervious surfaces. I'm going to go back to the landscape plan after I go through all the architectural plans, because we have our landscape architect here to describe how we're going to develop the backyard. And I have to put something down. I didn't write it. I'm going to explain how we do. Actually, I worked on this house about 10 years ago, and it's been, we're trying to correct the problems that the previous owner had with the home.
You shouldn't have said you worked on it. Previous problem.
Well,
Christina, you need to hold the mic. Sorry.
okay, I'm fine. Well, we didn't correct it at that time, but now.
Use your hands and
Now we're trying to correct the problem, which is the layout of the house, because there's a kitchen here, it's very, very small, and it has, there's a driveway right here, so there's no real access from the house to the backyard. And so what we want to do is move the kitchen into the family room, move the family room in the garage, put the garage on this side of the house, and develop this as a private green space. There's also a lack of privacy because there's no real fence along the aqueduct, and they have the public actually sometimes coming through onto their property, and we want to fix that. And then, as I mentioned, on the second floor, the house ends here. We're only bumping out 4 feet, and all our additions will meet the setbacks. And we're doing this because we need to, we want to create a hallway through here so this becomes a regular bedroom. Right now, we have to kind of go through this bedroom, this room, this odd room, just to get to this side of the house. This is the west elevation of the house is the new garage. Everything will be brick and in keeping with the character of the old house. This is the side elevation facing West Ardsley Road, and this is the old garage that will be converted into a porch and family room. This is the east elevation. These are the new glass doors that we would like to do to put on this side of the house, so you have access from the house to a new patio and yard. And this is the south elevation showing the garage doors, which will be facing the side of the house, not the street. And these are our preliminary sections just to show how the attic will not be counted in the floor area ratio. Now, I'd like to just turn this over to Susan Chanchill, our landscape architect, because a lot of the what's important about the project is how we develop the site, and she has a landscaping plan and colored sketch to show the kind of ideas that will be going into the project.
We actually have some printouts we could give you.
Suzanne, you have to use the microphone for the written transcript.
I can get them. Okay. We're giving this out. We're not entirely sure it was in the package, but it's nice and easy to see. That's also.
So hi, I'm Susan Janechel. I'm a landscape architect with the firm Aspect 120 Landscape Architecture. And I'm working with Christina on this house, and it is quite a remarkable property and sort of a unique property because it's surrounded on 3 sides by a right-of-way. So it's a corner house, so it has Ardsley Avenue over here and Hancock Place over here, and then it also backs right onto the Aqueduct Trail, which makes it more complex, of course, to think about how to deal with the development of the site and how to really refocus the layout of the site. The initial and biggest move that's happening here is that we're moving the driveway that is over here right now to the front of the house. I think that this really is both good for the homeowner, but it's also bringing the cars away from the aqueduct. Nobody really wants to see cars parked next to the aqueduct, and that's what you see right now. What we're proposing is to put a privacy fence along here. We haven't settled on the design yet, but the initial thought is to use the vocabulary that's used along the aqueduct right now, which is natural wood on the side of the aqueduct at least. So the other unique thing about the house is that currently the backyard space, or the sitting area that the former residents had, was just a little space right here, while they had this great sweeping view from the street, which is really a beautiful view, and we don't want to get rid of that view at all. But by moving the driveway over here, we're able to capture private area for the family to use in a private way. What we're proposing is to put a low well, which we haven't figured out the design quite yet of what it's going to look like, but the proposal is, in order not to have a random fence just sort of cutting across the property, really work with the architecture and complement the architecture with a low wall and then a fence the remainder of the height. So we're thinking probably a 2.5 foot wall with a 4 foot fence in order to make it not feel like this tall fence or this tall wall, but it really breaks up that view and maintains that sweeping view from the road. We tried to keep the impervious surface as minimal as possible, and we're happy to work on it even more as we go along. But just a quick view into what the interior of the backyard is, how we're proposing it. As Christina said, this is going to be a sitting area and a family room with a porch here. So this is going to be a covered porch. It's going to be the same footprint of the existing garage. So there's no more impervious surface here. But from these French door windows, we'll be able to see the whole way down sort of the distant view, and we're just proposing some sort of a focal point at the end of that. And we're showing it as a sculpture. It might be a tree, it might be a shrub, it might, just something to bring your eye down there. So we have this usable space with an outdoor kitchen off of the butler's pantry and the doorway over here, and then sort of at this cross axis, we created a square patio, and then a more formal lawn, and then a very much larger, softer kind of open area. We tried to keep all the trees. We are struggling to address this one tree here. There are some magnificent trees on this property, and I think one of the comments was that the homeowner should be getting an arborist, and I think that's a great idea because we want to keep as much of the green as possible, and use as much as the existing mature trees as possible, and we don't want the complications that come with at all infringing on the root zone. So we're going to try to maximize protection wherever we can. And so that's really where we're at right now, and this is the initial presentation, and I think there's going to be more iterations as we go through this process with the homeowner as well as with the various approving boards. And I think Christina wanted to talk a little bit about what we need to do next.
Well, I guess I forgot to, in case this might help you, I wanted to just simply go through just the photographs that we have here, just to help explain when I said problems that the property has that we want to address with these improvements. I don't know if you can see this photo, but you can see right through to the yard that's there. And there's no privacy, and some people even just come right onto their yard. So we want to create.
Seeing the car right
And
now.
here is the car. Yeah, cars sit out here in the long driveway. So we want to make this a green space, have a privacy hedge. This is a view of the front of the house, showing a pretty steep yard. It's not really usable as an outdoor space, which is why we want to put it in the back. This is a view. This one?
Is that where the fence is going to be? Right up above?
Yes, right here, right here. So that's why we want it to be.
Is that a natural, it's pretty steep there, I don't know, it just looks that way, right where your finger is.
Here, actually, the grades are going up, but the new wall and fence is parallel to the contours. This is a view of the south side of the house where there was an attempt to have an outdoor space, but you can see there's a blank wall here. You can't get really a good access to this space, and it's really not useful. This is the back of the garage. This is the front of the garage right now, and we're proposing a porch here. We're not going to extend it out any further than it is. We're going to renovate this space and make it into a porch, and then beyond that, the family room. And this is a really good view of the long driveway that's there, the gravel driveway that we want to make into mostly green space and a small patio. This is the side of the house showing approximately here where we're going to put the new wall and fence.
Right, the new fence would go sort of.
Right.
You're aware that there's a aqueduct buffer
Yes.
regulation? Okay.
Yes.
Right, I think we have it on this plan.
Yeah, have you read the restrictions of the aqueduct buffer?
Yeah, I was reading it today,
Okay.
and I did have a question based on the
Intrusion or?
the structures are not allowed, and then it says that a variance is only if you have it, if you have a buffer, like a buffer, screening with
A
evergreens.
fence is a structure in Irvington.
Okay.
The porch is a patio is a structure. The
It actually says building.
a building and a structure in Irvington is the same definition. And I'll make it simple. The definition is
I hear.
any combination of building materials is a structure.
Right.
Any structure is a building.
Right.
So that's a lot of activity in a buffer.
Right, so,
We're also struggling with our review to plan from Hudson Engineering, both for a 4-foot fence in the buffer. Christina's plan called for a new fence in the buffer. 6 foot 6.
yeah, it was 6'6" that we were looking at because of the.
So we
the
have
fence.
different, we have
Right,
lots of.
lots of things to clarify, that's for sure.
It's just, I want to make sure you understand before you go any further with this board, that what you're asking for is a big deal.
Right, and I think, well, the one thing that I was not aware of, because of the language of the code, is that the fence along the aqueduct trail would be considered a building.
And you can check the definitions in our zoning code.
Right, I was looking for that, I couldn't find it, yeah.
For the aqueduct buffer, it says that there can't be any structure or intrusion, so I believe it fits the definition of structure, but if it doesn't, it's definitely an intrusion.
Visual intrusion.
No,
No,
a thing,
it's an
a
intrusion.
thing. There can't be
Oh,
things
within-
in the buffer.
Can there be,
You have to speak in the microphone, please.
See,
Identify yourself first.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just Seth. I work with Christina Griffin.
Okay.
I've been working on this project. There can be a privacy hedge, though. That would be allowable.
All intrusions are the subject to the review of the zoning board of appeals, although this board has opinions on it.
I just wanted to mention one thing. As far as the new porch, it's an existing structure, and so there's not going to be anything added to this. This is an existing garage, so we're not actually changing.
You're adding the
We're
structure
leaving.
coming in.
It's coming in. It's going to be less.
It's good to let the zoning board know.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think it's good to bring attention to is the patio is inside of what is now the driveway.
And these are all good points.
Yeah, I just wanted to say.
Yeah, I just, that the board and you are on the same page. Further your conversations, I'm afraid that
Right, no, it's.
we'll be on 2 separate conversations, so this will get the conversation going.
We understand we need variances.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other thing is, this board's been very.
Yeah, we've, honestly, we've seen a lot around the buffer, around the Croton Aqueduct,
Yes.
and we've had strong opinions about that. And so, in fact, go watch some of the videos, watched last time, there's some that came in here to try to do something very similar, but in a bigger scale. And what you have to understand is that, and I'll say it like I said it then, is that the buffer is not really, it was done by the comprehensive plan to in fact make a buffer for the aqueduct, okay? Not for the owner of this house, but for the aqueduct itself. So we're sort of on opposite sides with this, in that our role and our task is to preserve it, and I at least treat it as if it's like a front facade, as a place that I'm going to be interested in what it looks like from that perspective, not from your perspective. Okay, so you're going to have to figure out a way to mitigate that. And so by coming in and saying, which I understand how you would do this, to come in to say, I want to capture this space for my client and stuff like that, you have to understand that's a gray zone. That's a zone that's already been determined that it isn't necessarily just for the owner of this house, but it's for the benefit of the village. So you're going to have to figure out a way to make that so that it's mitigated, so that they can enjoy part of whatever they need to, as well as that it doesn't encroach in the aesthetic of what that aqueduct is. So it's a teetering thing that you have to figure out.
I understand.
Plus, it's not just the patio. I mean, I guess you plan to put a table and barbecue a lot in the buffer zone.
We thought that you would probably prefer that than a driveway with cars on it.
The driveway is there, that's not.
See, that's the thing that happens here, is that it is, whatever's existing is existing. We really can't do anything about that. So once you touch it, then you have to follow these rules and stuff. So I strongly recommend that you work with the village to figure out what might be able to be acceptable, and then come in here and be able to convince this board that what you're doing is both acceptable for your client, but as well for the village.
You know, I really, of course, want to work with the village, and I've had this problem before. Not recently, but
the
building.
process,
Yeah.
before we can move on to talking to the zoning, it has to, you guys would want to get past that, or does it go to the zoning first?
You have, as I understand, you have a right to board. If you were to do that, typically what we do is we'll write an opinion saying that we're not for this.
Right.
So
No, we wanted to get before we
Yeah,
have
I'm just-
without you
yeah, just-
I think what you want to do is come back with a plan that is acceptable to this board in terms of the site planning issues.
Right.
Which would take into account the OCA buffer and all those other issues. And then once we feel comfortable with it, then you would then go on to the ZBA. and
Yes.
get-
When you say work with the village, you mean work with
This board.
or you would, I see,
With
can
this board,
continue
yeah,
to work
yes.
with you. I see.
Yeah, I think a couple of things that I wanted to point out. I don't believe your survey or your site plans accurately reflect the conditions on the site, and that's troubling. The topography isn't correct. The trees that are on the site aren't all located on the site plan, so you're gonna have to go back and make sure that you have a base that is accurate.
Right.
Before you.
We got an updated survey just before the submission day, and we're aware of that, and we're going to go back to the surveyor and get the right information.
Okay, all right. And also, as you said, as you can see on the photos that you showed, this site does not slope gently towards Hancock Place. It's level, and then there's a small area that's very steep, and then it starts to, level off a little bit towards Hancock. So that has to be shown accurately on there also, and also the number of trees that are all missing from there. Also, are you proposing then a fence along Ardsley Avenue as well as along the Oak Croton Aqueduct? You're going to fence in the entire backyard?
Well, this would be,
Please use the microphone.
Yeah, we are proposing two different fences, but a fence, that would be a privacy fence along here, and this more of a manicured kind of that would fit in with the neighborhood, with what we see around in other.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to take a look. I don't know how many fences you'll find right along the road in that area, but take a look around and see what you come up with.
And this is something I guess we could work with, not at a meeting, but maybe there's I don't know if it's working with Ed, but from what I read in the code and what I understood, is that a 6.5-foot fence is allowed anywhere on the site. I understand not in the aqueduct buffer, but how the code reads is that there's no restrictions to, well,
It's up to area approval.
right.
But you also have the fence on a wall along Hancock.
Mhm. Right, and that's why we went over it. And that was a last minute thing as well that we didn't realize. And that's why, this is really a first submission and a concept to get us started, to have this conversation, and make our next step useful.
Okay, and since you are increasing the coverage, you're already over coverage, and you're going to increase an additional almost 200 square feet. What we want you to do is to look at the houses immediately around this house and show what the coverage is on those houses compared to this. So we have an idea how it fits in with what the rest of the neighborhood is like.
Right, okay, we could do that.
Doug, is the FAR okay at this point?
Yeah, I believe so.
And the coverage went from what to what?
The coverage was going from
Is it already over?
4,059 square feet to 4,231 square feet. The allowable coverage is 3,536 square feet. So right now, according to our engineer's calculations, the coverage is exceeded by 19 over the allowable and 4.2% greater than the existing.
Do we want the engineer?
We will.
Okay.
This is all in Doug Hahn's memo.
Right,
Yes,
we've
but
got
we have
it.
no problem. We've been reviewing it, and we're going to address every point.
One last point, the wall, the stone, the 2-foot wall and whatever fabric you're gonna put 4 feet, 4.5 feet. There's nowhere in the plans for to look at it, what it looks like from the front.
Yes,
I mean,
in fact,
the only way, you have on the last page, a little diagram. There's no way of knowing what it looks like.
Yeah.
We need
Looking up
detail.
We understand that, and again, this
Yes.
is really an initial
Submission.
submission, and honestly,
That
from
would be
this, we might
helpful.
not have to figure that piece out, we might have to read.
Yeah, that's just something we need to look at,
We
but
also-
the real issue is going to be about the
we also are going to work on getting some visuals to show what this could look like from the aqueduct.
Right.
Because I'm sure that's something you
The way
want to
it's looking,
see.
you're taking it looks like you're taking the whole buffer zone, and it's no longer a buffer zone, it's a fence.
Well, I think what you need to do is really supplement the plantings that are out there, and plantings that will last, because it seems like it's very shaded out back there also, it looked like from the photographs. When you're on the aqueduct and looking into the yard, it looks like it's very shaded. So you're gonna have to come up with a planting plan that will last, and will give screening from the aqueduct to your client's yard and vice versa.
Right, and
Just a note on that, I think when you walk along there, you note that the last owner of the house tried to put in some trees and screening, and some of it is just overgrown now and isn't doing the screening anymore, and other ones are trying to survive in the shaded area that just isn't working. So we will look at figuring out how to do that in the correct way and a sustainable way.
We also have our civil engineer who just wanted to show his storm drainage drawings.
Good evening, Alberta from Hudson Engineering. From the zoning perspective, coverage is going up by approximately 200 square feet, but that's because driveways aren't included. From a stormwater aspect, there's actually a reduction of about 900. So instead of disturbing a lot of these areas to try to catch the patios and the small additions, we instead decided to catch the garage and the entire driveway, directed it to Coltex. We had no issue with the tests. We got down to full depth, we had a 12-inch perk rate, and we're designed for the 100-year storm event.
Will that catch basin at the bottom of your driveway, that's flowing back into the cul-de-sac?
Yes.
Is it going uphill there?
It's going below grade by far, yes.
Oh,
But we had to avoid it because of the
way down
trees.
to get it. But see, that's the thing, see, what you're not showing, there are 2 trees in the front yard that are not shown on those plans. Well, actually, there's one close to the entrance.
there's one here, and it's in a really bad shape.
Well, that's the
get
point.
that
That's
later.
right. I sketched out what I found out when I took a look out there. There's several trees out there, and they may be impacted by what you're proposing. So that's why you need to get an accurate survey of the property, and then see what
Gotcha.
what your proposal will do for us.
Just really helpful for everyone to first get all this information and then do that and then come here, as opposed to what this is, because now a lot of people spend energy trying to figure out what you did right or wrong. So I would say that the next time you do this, that you do more homework before you come. Okay? Not just you, but
Well, I got a sense of it. I may have misunderstood you, but when you pointed to the porch area, you said an extension of the porch?
Yes?
This is, the porch area is an
Or being
extension?
rather being cut back with this patio
Oh,
area.
okay, because
Sorry.
he said.
Yeah.
No, it's inside the garage.
Right, but the way he presented it, it was as an extension, so I just wanted to make sure there's no misunderstanding.
I also wanted just to note that we were not aware that the survey was missing this. We work with the document that we have, but we have become aware, and otherwise we would have been better prepared. But we'll make sure the survey has engaged on it.
Okay. Any other comments from any of the board members? Any comments from anyone in the public? Yes, ma'am. Come on, please state your name and your address.
This one, okay.
Hi, I'm Leola. I'm a resident on North Cotonet Street. I am also a member of the Friends of the Old Croton Aqueduct. I was on the code modernization update, and I'm very active in the village, a very, very often user of the Old Croton Aqueduct. And I also wrote my thesis and my master's degree on wellness and the kinds of things that make for well-being in a community. So, that being said, I am concerned about the number of variances we've been having over the years, more and more, where more and more coverage is being asked. More built environment will not take us well into the future. And so I would really ask strong consideration on any coverage variances that are being asked for. I also am keenly aware of the aqueduct not wanting that to be a path that has walls all along it. And so I would strongly suggest, from a landscape architecture point of view, that you consider native plantings, really screenings that would really help the well-being of the family as well as anyone passing on the aqueduct and the environment in general. It also helps with stormwater mitigation, plantings with varying levels of roots. So I would really strongly suggest that this kind of thing be considered and recommended for this property and all properties going forward. We just can't do things the way we've been doing them. It's not going to take us to a healthy future. So that's really what I also asked for. And pervious surfaces is also something we discussed on the code modernization. I don't know if the village has actually put in the requirement yet, but for paved surfaces, they really need to be pervious. And so the water needs to be going through and that sort of thing. And so if that's not a requirement, I would just ask you to do the right thing and have it that way if you do build this. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any other comments? No, I think you've got a direction from the board. I could go to work on that, and then we'll see you in a month or so. Thank you. Next item is 2019-28 Alexander and Ann Lackerhorn, 47 Ardsley Avenue West.
I don't see those. Just moving forward on this.
Okay, so we'll skip that one then for the moment, and go to number 6, which is 2019-27 Barbara Dan Trencher, 63 Field Terrace.
Can you announce our?
Oh, wait, yeah.
You just announced ours.
Are you here?
Yeah, she's here for them.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, guys. Now let's go back to number 5. McLaughlin. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Christine Griffin, architect, representing Ann and Alex McLaughlin. What we're planning to do is to renovate parts of this house. When we head to the site plan here, we're renovating and doing some small extensions to this house, and the reason for the extensions is so that we can add an entryway and closet to the front of the house. I'll show you a photo of this because right now there's no coat closet, there's no roof covering over the entry. We're adding, and this is only 34 square feet. We're doing a small mudroom addition, which will be only 27 square feet. And in this location, we're removing the porch so that we minimize the coverage, adding to the impervious coverage. And then we're doing a small bump out in the back to the kitchen. These are all one-story additions. This bump out allows us to get space for a breakfast area in the kitchen. This site plan is showing that the entire house is non-conforming. The entire house is in the front yard setback. We're also planning to enclose the porch, which is 150 square feet. So when you add up all these areas, we have something like a total of 253 square feet of additional floor area. The house is non-conforming in floor area, non-conforming in setbacks. It's also an undersized site, a lot. And so in order to do these small extensions, we need variances because they're all in the front yard setback, or we also need a variance for the FAR. This is our first floor plan. This is showing that we're adding this little bump out and a porch. This is just so we have a coat closet and a proper entrance to the home. This is our mudroom entrance that we're adding to the side of the house in place of the porch that's there. And this is a very small bump out that's just giving us some clearance so that we can have this breakfast area in the kitchen. We're also taking away some impervious surfacing. We're adding, but we're also taking away. Our second and these plans are here just showing that we're doing some renovation work in the second floor. And one reason why we have over the floor area is there's which was original to the house. These are elevations. This shows a formal entry with columns and balustrade on top, which is something we wanted to add to the house so that it actually gives the house balance. I'm going to show you a picture of the house in a few minutes. It also gives us a proper covering to the front door. We are this is the front elevation facing Ardsley West, Ardsley Avenue West. This is the side elevation showing our mudroom addition.
Before you turn the page, on the right, is that the closed-in porch?
Right here.
Yeah.
And on the right, this is the clipped-in porch.
It will be closed.
Yes.
The deck on top, that's accessible.
There is an existing deck on top. This is our rear elevation. This is showing the small bump out we're adding to the kitchen just to give us the space. And we're also doing a renovation of this facade. We're redoing the trellises and the patio. This is just our sections to show the attic that's in the top level of the house. And this is our side elevation showing the new windows in the porch that we're enclosing. Here are the photos of the house right now. This is the entrance to the house. And even though it's actually on the rear of the house, it's a beautiful facade. But the front, it almost like is a different house. So we really would like to add a really lovely entry that gives it, you know, a really nice scale and presence. And this is a view looking at the old porch that's there. We want to replace that with a mudroom and entry, and actually it's going to be slightly moved down towards the back of the house. This is a close-up view of it. And this is the view of the existing screen porch that we're planning to enclose.
Actually, I don't think it's screened. I think it's just a
I mean, open porch. Thank you for that. This is just views of different houses in the area. So, you know, a lot of these houses, this is actually 2 Hancock, you know, have the beautiful entries, and we really like to add an entry like that, a really significant and attractive entry to the front of this house. We are less, our total impervious coverage actually is reduced by 198 square feet, and that's simply because we've taken away some blocks, and we slightly changed the shape of the patio so it was symmetrical with the house, and we're rebuilding it anyway. So we know we need variances, and that's really mostly because the house is non-conforming. And because the house is non-conforming, then these additions, the only way to do them is to have them come into the front yard setback. And of course, even though we're not increasing the impervious coverage, it's a change in the impervious coverage.
I think it's important to notice that one of the reasons it's non-conforming in terms of the front yard setback is because it's placed so forward on the lot. It's, you know, you have plenty of space behind it.
Is there any comments from any board members? No? What, calculations, I thought there was some issue that there was a wall that maybe had been missed in the calculations?
The wall, yeah, this one is the wall. What is that wall?
There's a wall on the
left side there. Yeah.
along the driveway?
Yeah, along there, that wall was missed, I believe.
I think you need to
Pretty sure
your
it is,
calculations,
yeah.
make sure, you double check your calculations to make sure they're correct right before we can send you on to the ZBA.
If you could highlight the actual proposed improvements, you kind of have the original house, it's a little bold, it's really, it's kind of hard to see some of where the improvements are.
Oh,
You know what I mean? You have the existing conditions that are heavier than the other ones, and if you could just make
Yes,
the
we'll
proposed
see that.
improvements a little
We've been
heavier.
through your list, and we'll go through that. We can address each item.
So I think, yeah, go through those comments, and I don't think there was anything from our landscape architect. It was there, just to confirm that there are no regulated trees. I don't think there are any regulated trees in any of the areas where you're working, because these are all existing portions of the building where
I don't think so,
yeah,
but,
you're either over a walk, or
check.
you're over the driveway,
Right.
or you're enclosing an
Right.
existing porch, so I don't think that should be an issue. But I guess also too, just to make sure, in terms of access to the site before construction, to make, show, especially for the screening in, or the closing in of the porch, how are you gonna get to that building, that portion of the site, and make sure that there are no trees that are in the way of getting to that area, okay?
We can address that. Is that on the list for?
If it wasn't that, that's why I'm
Okay,
saying.
I'll make it up. Well, we'd like to know, can we be referred to can we go on to the?
They're not meeting in December, so you're not missing anything.
Okay.
Okay, because we need the correct numbers, the coverage numbers and well, I guess the FAR is okay, but the coverage.
Yeah, we need to get the numbers right.
We need just the
You think
wall
it'll be
area.
ready?
You're on.
It'll be on
The
for,
next meeting. Oh,
yes, okay?
perfect.
So I have a question that, nothing about this, but the rear facade is so different than the front facade. And I'm sitting here saying, well, no offense to you, but who did that? You know what I mean? It's like, the rear is so, it's very well done.
It's almost like maybe there was actually three here. There is, there's the center hall, and there's the front, it almost looks like this.
That was the entrance?
There's a door here, lined right
So
up.
that's
to
what
the
it
front
is,
door.
okay.
And I don't know what the history has been in the house, but it almost seems like this was intended
That was the end, that was the front.
front. And
Yeah.
it's also the living room and dining room is flanking that door.
That's what it was.
I wonder.
Either that or someone just, when they built it, they put it in the...
Built it in reverse. Okay, very good, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, any comments from anyone in the audience on this matter? No? Okay. Thank you. Next item is 2019-27, Barbara and Dan Trencher, 63 Field Terrace. Okay. Then the next item is 2019-26, Vingsan Limited Partnership, 47 Main Street.
So, yeah.
47 Main.
The first test was finding the meeting room.
Yeah, here comes the real test.
For those who didn't understand, they were wandering around outside.
I don't sing, so sorry. My name's John Sullivan. I'm from M. Gillespie and Associates. We're the architects and engineers for this project. This is Sammy Salem. He's representing the applicant. This project is, we're going to be renovating the interior of the building on the second and third floors, the residential component. So during the process, the applicant decided they want to provide some parking. So this is the existing site plan to the left. This drawing here represents the 4 proposed parking spaces. It requires the curb cut to be relocated further toward the rear of the property, and the idea was to be able to pull forward, and there's an areaway on the back of the building that kind of impedes on being able to have this parking flipped or inverted. So that's why we chose this direction.
Excuse me, what did you say is the reason?
There's an areaway that goes to the basement.
Oh,
on
there
the
are
back
two
side.
stairs going down to the basement.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
So in order to navigate a vehicle, you know, if this were inverted, would be really difficult. So the other reason was, you know, headlights shining onto a residential or house adjacent. There's also a refuse enclosure that we've proposed toward the rear. There's some landscaping to shield some AC condensers, and
Are there 7 units in the building now? Is that
that's correct. 4 on the third
no
floor.
change in the number of units being proposed?
No. These are 2 photo renderings that the applicant has provided. This is the before, and this would be the proposed. I have copies here. If any of the board members would like a copy.
Yeah, I'll open up to any comments from any of the board members. Do you want?
I'm glad you approached the idea of flipping it, because when we looked at this, when I looked at it, I thought of, why is it that way and not the other way? Where you would have headlights going to the fence, not exhaust fumes. And you're more likely to hit something backing up, meaning the neighbor's fence backing up. And the garbage dumpsters are right on the fence line, and they would be more on the side of the building and not on the fence line. So I'm not sure which way is the best way. I didn't realize there was stairs there, but how much of a peril is it to flip it the other way and put the head-on into the fence?
It just wouldn't work. You wouldn't be able to navigate a car. This is the existing site plan, so you currently pull in here. There's like a driveway. The areaway is right there. If this were inverted, there's no way to back a car up. It just wouldn't work.
Well, I don't understand that, because your spaces are only just touching the foundation of the staircases at the very tip. So if you just flipped it, I mean, it would seem that your roadway would go right along the back of the staircases, and then you'd still pull in. I mean, I'd like to see you show us, you know, either on a tissue paper or overlay on that, why it doesn't work.
We actually did explore that option, and it was backing a car up is a lot more difficult. It's, if you notice here, there's these triangular areas that are not paved or pervious, or, so that gives you more room. Plus, the front of the cars is, you know, not going to be that close to it, I suppose. A larger car might be, a Suburban or something along those lines. But to back a car up through here, it's just, it's risky, I think. And we did explore that option.
I'm looking for, I think I brought a copy of it. Don't you have the front railing set? We could always...
There's a steel railing, but...
So the car is not gonna, you afraid that's gonna bang into the car?
One person at a time and announce yourself on the speaker. It's for transcript.
You're gonna need some sort of, wheel stops, aren't you, on those parking spaces, no matter which way they go to? Because you've got staircases on one side, and then if you flipped it the other way, you have a 6-foot wall
Well,
that exists.
these stairs here, this is actually a raised area here. This one is access to the basement of 47 Main Street. These stairs here, I believe, are elevated.
I think they both go down.
They do go down.
They go down, okay.
They both go down to the basements there. But I'd like to see, I'm not gonna be here, but I don't know if the board would like to see.
We'll give you some address.
Is this the foot?
That's the foot. Sammy Salem gonna talk.
Sammy Salem with Bing Same Partnership.
So then why doesn't this work?
We wouldn't be opposed to it at all. If, I think the main purpose of our submittal, obviously we omitted a lot of the civil issues that we would happily address. We wanted to see what the board's view on the actual parking for these 7 newly renovated apartments was. Obviously, we have 7 apartments, we're only requesting 4. This made the most sense for us to move the curb cut because we were afraid of the headlight issue and we didn't want to cause a concern here. If we were to make it work, we would heavily protect this with bollards, not just the steel rail.
Right.
Again, the issue is, would this be allowed?
Well, there's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. I mean, if you're parked facing towards your building, then the exhaust is headed out towards the residential behind you. If you are parked towards the residential building, then the lights are shining that way, but you do have a 6-foot wall there now that your neighbor has constructed there.
Yeah, he has a
So it
solid
protects
fence.
you from
Correct.
that.
Yes, sir.
And then that way the exhaust fumes are closer to your side of the property rather than to your neighbor's side of the property.
Hey, I don't understand the restriction you're talking about, because the distance from the rail of the steps to the fence is the same regardless of whether the parking are pointed towards the building or towards the fence. The distance doesn't change by flipping it.
Correct.
It's still the same distance restriction.
It's just
And I think-
navigating a car, I think backing up toward those steps is a lot more difficult than pulling toward it. Just our personal experience and.
Well, you
Well, my
have to-
experience is you hit things backing up.
Hit the wall.
Hit the
Yeah,
wall.
Yeah, the tenants
You
will
could
hit the
hit the
wall.
fence.
I'd rather have them hit something on your property than on your neighbor's property.
And we can have a
Seriously.
perspective with bollards.
Plus
you want parking.
you move the garbage dumpster away from the fence and against your building.
The other reason too was backing up here, and I've done it myself, this is very blinding. If you're backing up here from pedestrians. So back here, there's more visibility for people that are walking on this sidewalk.
So that's your first valid point.
Well, what we proposed on the building down on Astor Street was to have some sort of light or some sort of sound that would alert somebody if there's a car backing out. Beyond the cars though, I have a real problem with 7 compressor units on the street bordering a residential area. I mean, they, as far as I'm concerned, they belong on top of the building.
The condensers were gonna move to the roof.
By the way,
we're all in agreement.
just realized that the visibility for pedestrians is the same because the fence is blocking you in your configuration. So, I mean, the visibility issue is both ways.
Well, yes, and it won't be as bad because the compressors will be gone, so if they do some screening, they can set the screening back a little bit farther onto their properties.
I guess the reason here, I think it's a good point. I've backed up here and it's blinding, so that's how I'm not aware of I guess this wall back here, exactly what the neighbors have, but.
It's a plastic, one of those vinyl 6-foot-high white fences that runs the length of the property.
So vinyl slats.
PVC.
PVC,
George.
Yeah, the funny thing about it is like, it really, you flip a coin, so to speak, as far as I'm concerned. But the irony about talking about gas fumes, not that this is gonna happen, but probably sooner than later, there'll be electric cars. And then so.
You should leave room for a charging station right there.
No, yeah, but I'm just trying to go through like what the issues are versus what makes the most sense. So to me, I do think your point about having it further down from Main Street is excellent, because if you that's a tight little place to get in and out. And yes, you're showing a nice little sedan, which they don't make anymore. So they're all going to have bigger cars that are going to have to navigate through this little area. So yes, I would say that being further away is a better idea than being closer to your building for the village, for people walking and for other cars.
I would urge, the board members to actually go and look at this areaway. And it's, to me, backing up here is a problem, I think. And I'll look at this wall here a little bit closer, because...
Yeah, I just think that what's going to happen is that people are going to park there, and they're all going to have dents.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
You mean
and then they're going to pull in, they're not going to go in far enough, and then no one's going to be able to get back, and they'll get into fights. It's a very tight thing.
And you may need some protection, and if you are gonna if we do agree to that plan, then you may need some protection then for that fence along your property.
One more thought,
Yeah.
the two driveway scenarios, what are the impacts to the existing parking spaces in the street with both versions? Are we losing a space? Are we making space?
Well, you would lose one and gain one, I suppose.
I just make sure the board is aware of that.
Yeah.
Just on our notes, I just want to make sure the board,
Although
all your points are important, that's also important.
No, right now, there's one space missing there, so that there's access to the back.
Okay.
So as long as if they flipped it, whichever way they flip it.
As long as they
they'd have
flip it,
to
don't
create
lose the space.
Right.
That's
they'd
what
have
I'm
to
concerned about.
Yes, exactly, yes, they'd have to create another space.
Because right now,
Flip it.
whatever it is,
Right.
we don't want to lose what we have.
Right.
So if you can show that on the street, hopefully it
Sure.
works. Even if
Absolutely.
there's a little relining to be done, as long as we don't lose the space, either version.
Okay.
And then I think the plan doesn't reflect what's actually out there. There are a couple of, I think the landscape architect, there are 3 trees out there that aren't shown, and the way you're showing your site plan, I think all of them would be gone. Maybe one all the way on the west side of your property might stay, but that tree is probably in the worst condition of the 3 of them. So you really need
Yes,
to...
we'll do a survey on the landscaping. We also, we're going to have the surveyor, shoot some topo, so we can properly, figure out the drainage. This is an initial concept. We want to get some feedback, what the board thought.
You don't want the drainage running down into the neighbor's yard. So you need to address the drainage.
Right, it'll have to be picked up on your lot.
The initial proposal, we showed some pervious paving, but your consultant brought up some good points on the materials, so.
Unless it's taken care of, they clog up after several seasons, and it's worthless then.
They also freeze up in the wintertime, so.
Yeah. But the other thing too, that I noted was, those parking spaces are for units that are just in the bank building, correct?
These are for the residential tenants.
Right, but they only exist, those units only exist over the bank. They don't exist over that second lot that you have. right? So you're going to need to provide cross easements for access.
Right, I understand that, and, right. Yeah, these are two separate parcels, but they're same owner.
Right now they are, but they could sell one off and then that space,
Right, I
who wants
understand.
that space?
Yeah.
And how do you get access to it? So,
Okay.
Anything else? Any other comments from any board members? Let me just make sure I had no other comments. I think that was it. Yes, from the public.
Hello again. I'm Leola from North Continent Street, so I'm pretty close to this property. And actually, it's a gorgeous historic building. And although I may sound like a naysayer, I'm actually a really big collaborator, and I like win-wins. And I really think you have a cool opportunity here. So gorgeous historic building. And as a 7-year rider on our ambulance corps, I saw that some of the places inside were not so great looking. That was a while ago. Maybe it's better now, but renovations sounds really nice. Are the renovations, I have a couple questions before I have my comments. Are the renovations for the inside thought to be B-type housing, or what are you targeting?
All your comments to the board.
Sorry.
Not to the applicant.
Okay, great. So it's not luxury A kind of housing, it's B type, or what type of improvements are?
It's up to, that is up to the owner of the property. It's not, it's
Okay,
the village.
doesn't matter. Okay. Just considering the market and the rentability of this place in the future, of course, the desirability of Irvington, it helps the well-being and property values of everyone.
These are existing apartments.
Yeah, and that's great. And B apartments are probably the better choice right now with not the A. So anyway, okay, so, good opportunity here. I was doing a real big happy dance when I saw that you were going to enclose the refuge. I wondered why the neighbors hadn't complained all these years. It's really a big mess, and I'm thrilled to hear that these kinds of improvements are planned. I think also for future rentability and again, as this property being a good participant in our community, I think more natural space than parking space is what will be important. And I'll tell you this for a couple of reasons. I'm not adamantly opposed to 4 more parking spaces. I think a lot of residents in the area will be thrilled because there'll be less pressure on parking on the street. But I talk to young person after young person after young person, and people are not going to be as car-centric as we are. And so I really challenge you to be more forward-looking. In fact, an event I attended last night, they said no community should be adding any parking right now. The young people don't even want to have a car anymore. And so the better use of that space could really be, and rentability of the property would be some really nice outdoor space with natural environments instead. So I challenge you to sort of think about that kind of thing if you think that parking is just not so doable here from a safety standpoint or whatever it may be. If parking is put in, I would just like to repeat again that just make sure the surface is pervious. We're going to have heavier rainfall in the Northeast as predicted on a forward basis, our new reality. And we also have to always be mindful of sort of having natural environments filter the rain rather than it running into the river. And so I would just, again, just think about pervious surfaces and the importance of that. Let's see. And I would also say that if there are any native trees that are on site, that they be preserved. Those Norway maples or something, go ahead and take them down, no big deal. But the roots and things of these native trees, they nourish species, they hold the soil together, all that sort of stuff is really important and will help the tenants of this property. People are much happier when they're around places with trees and natural spaces. If the entire place is their whole backyard of that property is paved like parking lot, it's not going to be as enjoyable or rentable. In the future, people are going to want more natural spaces and less car-centric paved surfaces. In terms of landscaping too, I would also ask, and I brought this with me, I wasn't sure who to bring it to, but as I understand it, Irvington was going to put dark sky requirements in for the lighting. And the current LED light that's at this property is horrific. It is crazy bright. You can see it in all the yards behind it. I can see it in mine. It comes in my bedroom window. And so the current light there, I would just ask that we require that they fix that. But any new landscaping put in should be really according to dark sky guidelines where the lighting is down. It's not flooding light all over the place, disturbing residents and wildlife alike. And I also wondered too, in terms of the amount of condensers that will be required, was geothermal considered, or something else that would be renewable energy instead of from polluting sources of energy to heat and cool this place. I know there's, I'm talking about a lot of things here, but I did have a lot of concerns as, being really a neighbor in this area. And again, I think these can be win-wins for the homeowner, for the renters, and the community at large.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? No? I think then you got marching orders. Take our landscape architects and our engineers' letters and the comments you received tonight. We
Come back to the drawing board.
revised plans, okay?
Okay. And the deadline for the next meeting is?
26.
26. Okay. Thank you very much.
You may not have been here. We're meeting not the first Wednesday, which is January 1st.
January
8th. I don't think you were here when we announced. Maybe you were.
Yeah, January. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Are you in touch with the owner?
Yes. Man, we're gonna go back now.
Thank you very much.
See, Mr. McClure is here, so which one are we on? We're 2019-27 Barbara Dan Trencher, 63 Field Terrace.
Thank you very much. I apologize for being late.
Speak into the microphone, please, sir.
I apologize for being late. I got caught at a job site. Douglas McClure for the Trenchers at 63 Field Terrace. The project is an addition on the back of the house. The client would like to expand their kitchen, which currently is not very functional, and then with that do a covered outdoor eating area and a nicer terrace, getting rid of this getting rid of an existing wood deck back here, which is in terrible condition. This also allows them to do a proper mudroom, so when they bring their cars into the garage, they can move in through the backyard. So that's the extent of the project.
Is this one, are you also proposing some sort of pull-off along the driveway?
Yes, we're also, it's a shared driveway, and what they would like to do is do a pass-through or just a little driveway area, so when cars are coming through, they can pull through and not have...
I think what you need to do then is show any trees or shrubs that are out there now, because I thought it looked like
It's
from...
actually all grass here.
I'll
double check, but...
Confirm that.
Yes.
Take photos of it, because when we went on Google Maps, it looked like there were a number of evergreens.
There are a lot of evergreens along Field Terrace.
Coming up the driveway.
No, it's just grass here, and there's a bluestone pavers coming up to the door.
Just take a photo of that.
Sure.
A shot of that.
That's easy. I apologize for this site plan. I don't know why it printed like that. I went and looked at the drawing. The line weights are very strange. The existing house is here, and again, we're removing this. There's a dotted
line here, which is this deck, and we're adding the property, the addition here with the covered area and patio.
Any comments from any of the board members? Any comments from anyone in the public on this? No? I guess.
So I spoke to the engineer today about Doug's comments.
Yeah.
They've already addressed them, so we'll have that for you.
Just do that and just confirm again that there's nothing,
Sure.
no greenery other than lawn where that pool will be. I think it should be good next
What are you
time.
gonna do with the lawn? You gonna take the lawn out and put gravel in or something?
Well, this is a macadam surface, we'll just extend it over so it feels like a natural pull-out.
You put it in macadam, which is impervious.
Yes.
It's under 250 square feet. We don't require drainage for that.
You know who invented macadam?
Mr. Macadam?
Macadam, John Macadam, 1803.
Is that it?
See you next month.
Okay, what was the date?
January
January
8th, second Wednesday.
Permission date for 26th.
Can I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.